Hello, everyone, and welcome to Live the Sage Life podcast with your host. That's me, Lisa Van Hera. And today is just a quick and concise episode on thriving. I'm hosting an in-person workshop in New Jersey, October 15th, which is just around the corner. And I'm just giving a little preview today of what we're going to be discussing and a little bit about what burnout is. So today we're going to talk about burnout, which I recently had an opportunity to speak at a meeting for some real estate agents and share kind of a perspective on burnout. And, you know, burnout is something that just isn't quite easy to explain. It's something you might have experienced in professional life and career. Yet the funny thing is, when I was doing some research around this, is it's so tied to your professional life when people are explaining it or trying to define it. But the funny thing is, it really pertains to the whole aspect of your life. It may just be evident in your professional life, but that doesn't mean that's where it's all being derived from. So I only use the word burnout to describe an experience that I personally went through in my life. Yet I recently had an amazing coach and mentor in my life, Carolyn Azuna. She recently shared with me that you never say or really share or identify, I think that's the main word, was identify with the word burnout or say that's what you're going through, because then you're identifying it as you. You're attaching it to your identity of who you are and what you're experiencing. So that is part of the reason I'm doing this workshop coming up on October 15th, is to step away from the use of that word and focus on what you're actually wanting. You have to acknowledge and validate what you've been experiencing. So when I was experiencing that in October of 2020, I was feeling very physically, mentally shaken, disconnected, stressed out, overwhelmed. You know, I took the time to acknowledge and feel what I was going through. So really taking the time to assess and recognize what I was feeling. And feeling, not getting drowned in the emotions of it, but really acknowledging and bringing it to the forefront of like, gosh, I really am overwhelmed, or I really am tired, or this is how I'm feeling. I need to acknowledge how I'm feeling. So then, one, I can become aware of it. Two, I can remove some of the judgment around it and making it so wrong or making something else so right. And with removing the judgment, then asking myself, okay, what is it that I need? How can I find support? And those are three things that are just so essential to making progress anywhere in your life. I'm going to share those towards the end of this episode, so make sure and stick around. But there's three things that really I've always used whenever I'm feeling stuck in life or overwhelmed or whatever it may be. So this description of burnout, to me, burnout is more of a deep-seated feeling of unworthiness that we have. We are putting so much of our worth in our profession and or our identity. Let me say that again. Burnout is more about a deep-seated feeling of unworthiness. We are putting so much of our worth in our profession and or identity. So that's my perspective. I think that's the exciting thing about having conversations and having guests on this podcast, is about adding perspectives. And we're going to have some more guests coming on in the next few weeks. And when we add to those perspectives, we're looking at things from a different angle, from a different point of view. And when we do that, the more perspectives we're adding to our view, the more we're able to rise essentially in consciousness, rise in understanding, rise in compassion, and get to a new point of view. So like if you think about it, when you're standing at the bottom of the mall, let's say you go to the mall and it's like one of these really big malls with multiple layers and multiple stories. And if you're on the first floor, well, you only see the first floor. You only see the ceiling looking up if it's open. It has some open concept there going on. But if you go all the way to the third floor and then you're looking down over, now you see all the stores on the third floor and you're seeing this whole different perspective. You're seeing the food court. You're seeing whatever's around you. So it's a very basic analogy, I guess, to be sharing, but it's like you can relate to that when you go and stand even on the top of a diving board at the pool. If you have the low dive, the middle dive, the high dive, and you go to each of those stages, you're getting a different perspective, a different point of view from each one that you're standing at. And then when you're looking at it from down below the high dive, it doesn't look so high. But then once you get up there, you're like, holy crap, that's like really a long ways down. So you're changing your point of view, you're changing your perspective. And I know once I've gotten up to the high dive, I have a whole new level of appreciation and understanding and compassion for those professional divers that do all those crazy flips and tricks and all that kind of stuff off the high dive. They make it look so easy. And when you get up there, you're like, wow, that's a fear. That's a discomfort they had to get over and process, right? I went off the high dive and I would do the pencil jump, and that's the level that I got to with that. So with all the stuff of what we're experiencing in life, the same thing is happening where we're changing our perspective, we're changing our level of compassion and understanding. And when we do that, we can add to the level of consciousness, which we're seeing these experiences and events that are playing out in our life. So I wanted to add, with the definition that I had shared of what burnout was to me, is my husband, Ryan, shared with it a wonderful quote. He said, "I believe change is the most difficult challenge we face. It leads to burnout. We burn ourselves out avoiding change and mentally create roadblocks that make it that much harder to achieve growth through change. The funny part is change is inevitable. And if we just accept our greatness in that light switch moment, we become grateful of our ability to grow rather than resentful of our current fears holding us back." So that quote from my husband, Ryan Van Hera, I think just sums up everything I was sharing. It's simplified it's not really around the word so much burnout. It's around our resistance, around our challenge of change, of how we're viewing change. And that burnout is just a symptom. It's just a symptom of energy, of connection that needs to take place, that is really calling out for us to get reconnected with ourselves, with our soul, with our heart, with our being, our life. Where are we avoiding change? Where are we in avoidance of something that is taking place? And that's all that's really trying to show us. It's just trying to show us, hey, there's something here in life that isn't quite working. And if it isn't quite working, that's okay. It's not a bad thing. It's just a sign, an indicator that something is really wanting to make a shift in your life. So it starts getting painful. It starts getting uncomfortable for you to recognize that and for you to see that. Just like going up to the top level of the high dive, how are you feeling up there? It is uncomfortable. If you're afraid of heights, then you're super uncomfortable, but it's just an indicator of, hey, the height here has changed. Hey, I'm doing something I haven't done before. And I'm doing something not really sure I know what the outcome's going to be or how this is going to feel. So asking yourself, how do we find the truth behind what's going on how can I get more connected with this resistance or with this avoidance? And what kind of support do I need to call into my life to help me see this in a different way, in a different light? Those are some of the questions that I really started asking myself, and that is so essential for anybody in any really situation that can be so eye-opening to discovering what's going on inside more than we realize. So the 3 things that I said I was going to share in this episode that help you get unstuck, if it was just 3 things that you could do, 3 things to help you get unstuck. Number 1 is awareness. Bringing awareness to these thoughts, these feelings, and just being aware of them, yes, just recognizing